Michael, what first took you on your spiritual journey? There's, for many of us, there's something that happens, or some loss, or some
Right.
conflict. What about you?
I think mine was a little different in some ways. I had a childhood that was built around, for lack of a better term, insight. I would have moments where I'd be sitting in class and suddenly it's like the whole world kind of fell away, and I wasn't really sure what that stuff ever meant. Had no way of contextualizing it, but I would have these moments of incredible expanse. And I also was quite literally at war with the idea of church from a very, very young age. I had a Sunday school teacher that was telling the group about how you either accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior or you would never get into heaven. And I went, well, what about my Jewish friends? And I had a very significant Muslim friend. And she said, well, I'm not going to make it in. I'm like, well, then this is stupid. And my parents were great about that. They were really supportive. And so as much as they were supportive of that particular kind of challenging, authority type deal, I also felt that there was something missing. And as I would start to have these insights, and they began to show up a little bit more regularly during my teen years, and then into college, I wanted to know what they meant because they were pointing me somewhere. And I wasn't terribly interested in reading a lot of spiritual texts. I think, especially at that point in my spiritual growth, I was largely uninterested in reading about it. I wanted somebody to show me. And so I began to explore various traditions. Still couldn't quite stomach the whole church thing. Explored Judaism. Didn't dig the whole temple thing. I ended up at a Zen sitting, and the elegance of just sitting still. I mean, really sitting still. Something seemed to click. And so my practice kind of took off from that point. I was kind of hooked on this idea of just sitting still, and how especially the men and women that were in front of me, they didn't act like they were any closer to God, so to speak, than anybody else. They had just walked a little further along the path than the rest of us and had things to say. And nearly without fail, what they said would unlock something. And so it was a very slow, methodical process that kind of slopped forward and back, and it wasn't linear or anything. It wasn't a concrete sequential deal, but it was just this beautiful kind of ebb and flow. And before I knew it, I was in a space where I either made this jump or something horrible I was going to have to kind of put this back into a box that just wasn't going to be comfortable, so to speak. It would be like there was this expanse that kind of started to transpire, and then I either took the next step, or I was going to have to get back into a set of clothes that was too small.
Yes.
And so I decided to kind of commit to it, and I took some time off and went to Thailand, went to Nepal. Was for 6 months in a resident at a Zen community, and I was all set to ordain, all set to make that jump. And it was very interesting as I was getting ready to take those vows and so forth, start to formally approach it. It was as if something just inside of me said, no, go back home, go back home. And it wasn't that I was necessarily missing anything. It was that was where if it was going to unfold in a way that was constructive and participatory and engaged and so forth, that was where I needed to go. I needed to go home. And I did. And Infinite Smile kind of spontaneously shot out of that going home. And so did the book. It was a very, just kind of, it's just one of those things that's kind of unfolded.